Hey, what's up everybody? Commander Radix here, bringing you another episode of Transformers Lore. Today, we'll be taking a look at the events in the story Transformers Escalation, the sequel to Transformers Infiltration, and the second installment in the Asians trilogy in the IDW Hasbro universe. I do recommend watching other earlier episodes about events set in this universe, namely Transformers Lore Infiltration and Transformers Lore Spotlight Shockwave. Though they haven't been made yet at the time of recording, if Transformers Lore Stormbringer and Transformers Lore Spotlight Soundwave or Transformers Lore Spotlight 6-Shot are out by the time you get around to this video, I also recommend watching those as well, although I did make this video before them. But without any further ado, sit back and enjoy, and if you enjoyed the video, maybe consider subscribing. 2006 in the IDW Hasbro universe, not that long after the arrival of Optimus Prime and Megatron on Earth. On the Arc 19, Ratchet informs Hunter O'Neill, Verity Carlo, and Jimmy Pink that, by Prowl's orders, they are to be returned home. The humans protest this as they want to stay with the Transformers. Hunter has been looking for aliens his entire life, while Verity and Jimmy really don't have anyone or anything to go back to. But the decision is out of Ratchet's hands, as Verity remarks that she's gotten used to people abandoning her. Meanwhile, a field unit of troops for the Machination under the command of an agent named Drake are running simulations and training for the operation to eventually steal one of the Transformers for the Machination. After all, they've been stationed at the edge of Lake Michigan waiting for the Autobots to emerge, and besides a quick mission to Latveria, as told in the New Avengers Transformers crossover, the Autobots really haven't emerged lately. But nevertheless, the Machination will be ready. As the humans start to pack up their things, Verity plays one last round of a video game Sunstreaker created that stars himself as the hero. Jazz's hollow matter avatar speaks to them, thanking them for how they helped the Autobots lately, including how they informed the Autobots that the frozen smiles on their avatars were creepy. It is revealed that Prowl has ordered Sunstreaker and Ironhide to drive the humans home, punishing Ratchet by making him unable to be with the humans for the drive home. And so the humans leave. Prowl reports to Optimus Prime that the humans are gone, interrupting him looking at several screens and listening to reports across the universe. Silverbolt is reporting on a Decepticon infiltration team he is dealing with, Springer is reporting about some of the Wreckers' actions lately, while Ultra Magnus reports on bringing in the Decepticon swindle. Jetfire is also providing Optimus Prime with reports from the Decepticon Bludgeon's archives. After all, while the Transformers on Earth were dealing with OR-13 and Megatron, Optimus Prime had been focused on Cybertron, dealing with the return of Thunderwing, under the control of Bludgeon. Thunderwing was the individual who had destroyed Cybertron's atmosphere, and irradiated the planet oh so long ago, and he was brought back by Bludgeon on Ultra Energon, another name for OR-13, that he harvested from Earth. According to Jetfire's reports, both Shockwave and Soundwave are said to have been on Earth. Prime just doesn't know where they are. As Prowl reports about the humans leaving, Optimus says that this is for the better, especially as he is not confident that the Autobots can actually save the Earth. Meanwhile, the Machination watches as Ironhide and Sunstreaker launch from Lake Michigan, with Verity and Jimmy inside Ironhide and Hunter inside Sunstreaker. Sunstreaker is complaining about having a nasty human inside his body. As they drive along a congested highway, the Machination deploys their forces with swift precision and training. Ironhide panics as he is boxed in and can do nothing but watch as the Machination fires a rocket that seemingly destroys Sunstreaker. Ironhide yells out Sunstreaker's name as Verity and Jimmy realize that Hunter must have died. In the Decepticon command bunker in Oregon, Megatron is briefed on OR-13 and the immense power it holds. Megatron is impressed and wants to use the different veins of OR-13 the Decepticons have discovered on Earth to his advantage, especially considering that the Transformers have been low on energon for millions of years. Later, Megatron assembles all the Decepticons and confirms their loyalty before giving the order to activate the Decepticon facsimiles on Earth to properly begin Phase 2. One example of such facsimiles is a Republican senator by the name of Alexander Holt. 9 months ago, Holt was meeting with a United States general as the topic of American withdrawal from the Middle East was gaining popularity. As Holt was supported primarily by oil companies who wanted a U.S. presence in the oil-rich Middle East, Holt did not support withdrawal, and was meeting with the general to ensure that the military would stay entrenched in the region. Runabout watched this meeting and pegged Holt as a perfect candidate for a facsimile to ramp up hostilities on Earth. Back to the present, Skywarp, who has been graciously repaired by Megatron after his betrayal, and Thundercracker launch an attack on a factory in the Middle East. As they are American F-22 Raptors, the Americans will be blamed for the attack, and Megatron says as much as he works to keep hostilities running in the region. He asks Runabout and Runamuck to ensure Holt's response will continue to flare up hostilities. He notes that with Phase 2 well underway, he should probably install a new unit commander, but first he wants to test out his new Earth-based gun mode. In St. Louis, Optimus Prime, Jazz, and Wheeljack are driving on the road, while Optimus asks Ironhide for a repeat briefing on the incident that lost Sunstreaker, as Ironhide, who has driven on the side of the road to let the traumatized Jimmy and Verity have a moment to grieve, explains that he had to leave when human emergency vehicles surrounded the scene and that Sunstreaker's remains were hauled off to a police compound in Springfield. Ironhide says this was probably a Decepticon attack and that the Autobots need to retaliate on the Decepticon base, but Optimus rejects this idea, ordering Ironhide, Verity, and Jimmy back to the Arc-19, while Prime and his team go after Sunstreaker's body. On the road, Verity and Jimmy ask why Ironhide would think the Decepticons would be behind the attack when they saw human soldiers shoot at Sunstreaker, and Ironhide teaches them about facsimiles. At the Springfield PD impound lot, Jazz and Wheeljack infiltrate the facility under the cover of night, but find that the guard has been knocked out, meaning that they're not alone. They break into the building housing Sunstreaker's remains and find the Machination troops already there. The troops skillfully bring down Jazz and Wheeljack, setting the building to explode, though the Autobots get out in time. The Machination driver drives his truck with Sunstreaker's body when he's stopped by Optimus Prime. Well, by stopped, I mean Optimus Prime transforms and stands right in front of the truck, and the truck driver slams right into his leg, dying in the wreck. The Autobots take Sunstreaker's body back to the Arc-19, where Ratchet runs an autopsy and discovers that it's not Sunstreaker's body. It's just a normal car designed to look like Sunstreaker. This means that the mysterious human faction likely has Sunstreaker and Hunter in their possession, but also know much more about the Transformers than Prime would like. Ironhide breaks the news to Verity and Jimmy that there's a chance that Hunter might still be alive, as Alexander Holt gives his speech in favor of ramping up U.S. military activity in the Middle East. Holt is also the Republican candidate for the President of the United States. Optimus Prime decides to call for reinforcements on Earth, eventually making contact with Nightbeat, Hardhead, and Hot Rod, telling them to come to Earth on the Arc-32. Ironhide asks to follow up on Sunstreaker's abduction, but Prime says no, as he wants to focus against the Decepticons, ordering the Autobots to keep up to date on any international incidents that might have been sparked by the Decepticons on Earth. Years ago, the Soviet Union was once a massive empire, but following their dissolution in 1991, Soviet states broke off and became their own independent countries, with Russia being the core successor state to the Soviet Union. One nation, known as Brasnya, attempted to gain independence from the Soviet Union, but Russia still does not recognize the breakaway state, with its capital in Zyargy, and the militant leader Georgy Koska. However, as a peace deal is in the works between Brasnya and Russia, Koska leaves his base and goes to an oil pipeline that's shared between Russia and Brasnya, where he meets with the Decepticons. You see, Koska is actually a Decepticon facsimile. Megatron has been powered up by Or-13 and uses his new energy source to do mass shifting, a process that requires tremendous amount of power to complete as he transforms into his gun mode. With Megatron, Koska destroys the pipeline in preparation for a greater conflict. Koska goes off to assemble his army, while Blitzwing puts on cloaking technology and hides in his Russian tank form. Everything goes to Megatron's plan as soon as the Russians arrive and discover the sabotage. However, Koska arrives with his army just in time to see the Russians near a destroyed pipeline, as this was a false flag incident made to accuse the Russians of destroying the pipeline, and so the Brasnians open fire on the Russians. The Megatron pistol in particular shows immense power when being fired at the Russians. Megatron plans for the Russians to retaliate, which the Brasnians will consider an invasion. When Koska questions if the governments will find a diplomatic solution, Megatron reveals that he has agents in Zyargi who will bring the government to wanting war. At the Arc 19, Ratchet goes to dispose of the fake Sunstreaker body when he finds Jimmy and Verity investigating the car. Jimmy explains that the car is made of Ultralight 50, a rare metal which he only knows of 3 domestic manufacturers. Verity suggests that they find the database of records of sales from these manufacturers to track down the human organization that built this Sunstreaker double for leads as to where Sunstreaker and Hunter are. Ratchet is hesitant to do so as it would be disobeying Prowl's orders, but he decides to help anyway, even as a camera watches him. Meanwhile, Prowl briefs Optimus Prime on the situation in Brasnya, and Prime recognizes Megatron by the blast patterns of the gun, also commenting that it's been a while since he's seen Megatron use mass shifting to become a gun. This means that he has a lot of energy, which means he is likely on Ore 13. Optimus orders the Autobots to deploy to Brasnya to secure the Koska facsimile and stop the Decepticons. As Russian and Brasnian tanks build up on the border, the Brasnian captain Todorov of the 14th Infantry informs his fellow officers that, in his time as a captain, standoffs between Russia and Brasnya have happened all the time, and usually a diplomatic agreement is made without shots being fired. However, what he doesn't count on is Blitzwing, who comes out of his cloaking tech and opens fire on the Brasnians. And so, Russian and Brasnian artillery and armor begin to pound away at each other, just as the Autobots use an orbital bounce to reach the battlefield. They transform into their vehicle modes and remain under cover, while Prime's trailer bounces into the area. Blitzwing locates Optimus Prime and Megatron gives him the order to take the shot, while also calling in Skywarp and Astrotrain as support in the battle. It is around this time that the Autobot reinforcements on the Arc 32 arrive in Earth orbit. Meanwhile, in the Arc 19, the humans and Ratchet narrow down the Ultralight 50 compound to a garage in Beaver, Utah, and a custom car outlet in Fort Wayne, Indiana. Before Ratchet can leave with the humans, they are confronted by Ironhide, who asks to go with them as well, as he doesn't want the Autobots to forget about Sunstreaker. Elsewhere, Hunter O'Neill wakes up strapped to a table in a dark room with mysterious figures all around him. He doesn't know where he is, but he knows one moment he was sitting inside Sunstreaker, in the next, he's restrained and cannot move or talk. The doctors say they will prepare him for surgery and knock him out with an injection. At Idea and Design Works Custom Wheels, IDW, get it, ha ha ha, in Fort Wayne, Indiana, Ironhide and Ratchet, along with Verity and Jimmy, are investigating the area, finding it filled with booby traps and even hollow matter avatar readers. As such, they have no choice but to send in the children, but the moment they stop responding at regular intervals is the moment the Autobots will rush in there. As the two do their investigation, they find a secret door, which leads to another part of the building, where Verity finds a business card with an M on it. Picking up the card releases gas into the room that knocks out the two, as a timer on a self-destruct bomb begins its countdown. In Brasnya, Blitzwing is about to open fire on Optimus Prime, but he is taken out by Roller, Optimus Prime's drone that detected Blitzwing when it came to the battlefield. Koska drives over and is about to shoot Optimus with Megatron, but the Autobots intervene. Skywarp and Astrotrain soon join the fray as Koska runs away from the Cybertronian brawl, intending to get himself killed by the Russians to avoid capture by the Autobots. Around this time, Hot Rod and Hardhead orbital bounce into the battlefield. The Russians stop their fire, so Captain Todorov does so as well, looking through his binoculars at the spectacle before him. An American F-22 Raptor is attacking a race car, while an American police car is being bombed by a space shuttle, all in the middle of this battlefield in Brasnya. The Brasnians can't help but watch in total confusion. As Hot Rod and Hardhead join the battle, Hot Rod accidentally crashes into Prowl, causing him to transform in front of the Brasnians to brace himself. Todorov sees the transforming robot and immediately puts in a call to Major Arkurin in Zyargi. However, this is difficult as communications are jammed, something Nightbeat reports to Optimus Prime. Megatron is jamming communications as he transforms to reveal himself to Optimus Prime. Megatron and Prime then begin an intense fight. In Tampa, Florida, Dante is having a meeting with a shrouded Cybertronian head hanging from the ceiling by a bunch of wires. This Cybertronian is the true head, pun intended, of the machination, and Dante explains that Hunter survived the implants from surgery and is currently recovering. The Cybertronian comments that he is anxious to test out the new transformation, but that he and Dante will make a great team because Dante, like himself, can put himself over every other miserable creature on Earth. When Ironhide realizes that the kids have been quiet for a while now, he slams through the building and deploys his hollow matter avatar and begins to evacuate the children from the building, loading them into Ratchet. Ratchet is forced to pull back as local law enforcement arrive, and Ironhide is unable to escape the exploding building in time, and Ratchet can do nothing but watch as the scorched body of Ironhide is seized by the police. As Megatron and Optimus continue to fight in Brasnya, Optimus mentions that Megatron has made many witnesses to their battle, but Megatron ensures that there will be no witnesses after he's done with the Autobots. Megatron has grown mad with power of the OR-13 as the Russians and Brasnians watch the fight in horror. Megatron loses his cannon in the fight, and the two resort to hand-to-hand combat. With the power of OR-13, Megatron can even open up his mouth and fire a laser at Prime, staggering him back. With the upper hand, Megatron wails on Prime relentlessly, finally smashing his fist through Prime's chest and squeezing his spark. Roller intervenes, distracting Megatron, but Megatron simply crushes the drone by causing a landslide onto it. Meanwhile, Prowl and Hot Rod manage to secure Koska from a Russian unit, and Prowl transforms, intimidating the Russians into pulling back from the battlefield. With Koska under Autobot custody, Prowl radios Prime for orders, but Prime doesn't respond, as Optimus Prime's body lays lifeless, as Megatron crushed the life out of him. In Eureka, Nevada, where Shockwave and the Dinobots are being excavated by Professor Goring and his paleontologists, Goring discovered that a mysterious government agency known as Skywatch has taken control of the excavation site. Now, Skywatch is in control of excavating the rogue Decepticon and Autobots. Megatron gloats over Prime's dead body, demanding a surrender, but the hopeless Autobots continue to fire at the OR-13-powered Megatron. Because he's powered on OR-13, the Autobots have no choice but to keep wailing on him until he tires out, the same strategy they use with Thunderwing on Cybertron. However, they doubt they have the ammunition or firepower to complete this strategy. With Megatron unstoppable, Prowl leaves Hot Rod to watch over Koska as he goes off to join the fight. The fact of the matter is, Prime isn't entirely dead. During the fight with Megatron, he was uploading his consciousness to his trailer and was using Roller as a distraction to completely leave his body. Now, his consciousness is floating in infraspace, the realm between life and death for a Transformer, not to be confused with the other infraspace, which is an alternate term for transwarp space, the realm between universes. While Optimus rides the border between life and death, waiting to be downloaded by his trailer command deck, he feels that he is not alone in the void. Someone else treads the ground between life and death, as a robot who is a stranger, yet at the same time familiar, calls out Prime's name. Back in Brasnya, Hot Rod is trying to get Nightbeat to give him an orbital bounce to the ARC-32, but Skywarp appears and attacks. Hot Rod and Koska jump to the ARC-32, but not before Koska melts, either having been shot by Skywarp or unable to survive the orbital bounce. As such, Koska cannot provide any intelligence to the Autobots. Meanwhile, as Megatron is slowly losing steam, a figure steps out from the shadows behind him. As Megatron turns around, he finds a cannon barrel right up against his face as Optimus fires from point-blank range. See, Optimus had downloaded his consciousness into his trailer, and once that process was complete, he was able to return to his main body and reboot his system so that he could get back up on his feet. Just like the strategy with Thunderwing, Megatron runs low on energy as the Autobots wipe the floor with him. Humiliated and defeated, Megatron calls for a Decepticon retreat from Brasnya. The Decepticons have been defeated. In Tampa, Florida, Hunter is brought out after surgery to meet the true Cybertronian head of the Machination. Hunter realizes that he's being used as a test subject for the Machination, who plan on taking over the world. Hunter looks around him and finds an army of headless Sunstreaker bodies. In Washington, D.C., a man named Agent Joshua Red, the head of the government agency Skywatch, despite not being an American himself, has received reports from the Skywatch contact in Brasnya, Major Curran, that there was a conflict between Cybertronians and Brasnya. As such, Skywatch, America's anti-alien agency, needs to hurry up and prepare itself for confrontation with these robots. Agent Red listens to reports about Skywatch Indigo taking over the Eureka excavation as he looks over the newly activated and enchained Ravage and Laserbeak, who had been excavated from a Skywatch operation at Mount St. Helens. With the robots under their wing, Skywatch hopes to be victorious in the coming war. Inside the Decepticon base in Oregon, Megatron emerges from the CR chamber in rage. He was humiliated and defeated. All of a sudden, the infiltration protocol matters little, and Earth has become a key front line in the war between Optimus Prime and Megatron. Megatron orders Astrotrain to bring in reinforcements, specifically Six-Shot, a Phase 6er who could destroy planet Earth, skipping around 4 phases all at once. Astrotrain is shocked by Megatron's order. As Six-Shot, deep in space, begins to make his way towards Earth from the planet Mumu Obscura, the Reapers, a race of planet-killing aliens who tried to recruit Six-Shot into their team, vow to follow Six-Shot. And once Six-Shot has brought the apocalypse to Earth, the Reapers will destroy what's left. And that's going to wrap up this episode of Transformers Lore. I hope you enjoyed. I do plan on covering some of the more major stepping stones in the IDW continuity in the near future, particularly the conclusion of the Asians trilogy. We've finally covered Infiltration and Escalation, and now it's time to cover Devastation, so stay tuned for that. Consider subscribing to this channel for more nerdy content if you like the video, and check out my social media links in the description. If you want to see this channel continue, consider supporting me on Patreon if you are so willing. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great day, ladies and gentlemen. Huge thanks to our patrons, including this month's $10 plus patron Josh Adkins. Check out the description for more patrons and more info about how you can receive a shout out here.
Stuck inside space and time, feels like I'm dead inside. Nobody even looks at me, they all just walk on by.